She doesn't love you. She doesn't even seem that interested. But for some reason, she just won't let you go. She texts you randomly, keeps tabs on you, and even pops back up when you start moving on. Why does this happen? Why do women hold on to men they don't even want? Well, it's not love, it's psychology. And once you understand this, you'll never feel confused by her mixed signals again. Women don't always need deep feelings for a man to feel attached to him. In fact, many times, a woman will hold on to a guy she's not even that interested in simply because of the emotional role he plays in her life. See, emotional attachment isn't just about love, it's about validation, security, and attention. And when a woman gets used to a man giving her those things, she subconsciously becomes dependent on them, even if she doesn't see a real future with him. This is why you'll notice women who keep men around, string them along, and never fully let go, even when they claim they're not that into it. One of the biggest reasons a woman can't let go is the validation she gets from you. Every time she sees your name pop up on her phone, every time she knows you're still interested, it gives her a sense of power. She might not even realize she's doing it, but on a psychological level, she enjoys the reassurance that you still want her. Even if she's not ready to commit to you, the idea of losing that attention is uncomfortable. And that's because, for many women, male attention isn't just about attraction, it's about self-worth. A lot of women measure their desirability based on how many men still want them, and if you suddenly stop giving her that validation, it forces her to question herself. That's when she starts reaching back out, keeping you on the hook, and making sure you're still there, even if she has no intention of giving you what you want. Another reason a woman keeps you around is that she's emotionally comfortable with you. You might be her go-to person when she's bored, when she needs a confidence boost, or when another guy she actually likes isn't giving her attention. You become a safety net, a backup option that she can turn to whenever she needs emotional reassurance. And because she's emotionally comfortable with you, cutting you off completely feels like losing a security blanket. She doesn't want to date you, but she also doesn't want to lose the emotional support you provide. That's why she'll check in with random texts, ask how you're doing out of nowhere, or even flirt just enough to keep you hopeful, because she wants to keep that door open, just in case she needs it. Then there's the ego factor. A lot of women hold on to men simply because they like the feeling of having control. If a woman knows you want her, she knows she has influence over you. She knows she can ignore you, and you'll still be there. She knows she can leave and come back, and you'll still pick up. That kind of control is addictive. It's a power trip. And the moment you start pulling away or acting indifferent, it triggers something inside her. She starts wondering, why isn't he chasing me anymore? Did he find someone else? Was I not as special as I thought? And that's when she suddenly comes back, acting interested, not because she wants you, but because she wants to reclaim that sense of control. This is why so many men feel stuck in these cycles with women who don't really want them, but won't fully let go. Because women don't always need deep attraction to develop a psychological attachment. They just need to feel like you're serving a purpose in their life. And as long as you keep giving them validation, security, and power, they'll keep you in the picture, even if they don't truly want to be with you. The real reason women hate losing power over you isn't about love, it's about control. See, when a woman knows she has influence over you, it gives her a sense of security. She might not want to commit, she might not even be thinking about a relationship with you, but as long as she knows you're still emotionally invested, she feels safe. Safe in the sense that you're still an option. Safe knowing that, at any moment, she could reel you back in if she wanted to. And the second you start to pull away, that's when things change. That's when she starts feeling that uncomfortable loss of control, and suddenly, she doesn't like it. Women crave control in relationships just as much as men crave respect. If she knows she can text you after weeks of silence, and you'll still reply, she knows she has control. If she can be hot and cold with you and you still stick around, she knows she has control. If she can ignore you, disappear, and come back whenever she wants, and you're still there waiting, that gives her all the power. And here's the thing. Most women aren't even doing this on purpose. It's not always some calculated plan. A lot of women do this subconsciously because they enjoy the feeling of being desired without having to commit. And the moment they feel like they're losing that control over you, panic sets in. That's why so many men notice that when they start to move on, suddenly, she reaches out. Maybe she sees you happy without her. Maybe she notices you're not as available as you used to be. Whatever the case, she senses that her power over you is slipping away, and that triggers something in her. It's not about missing you, it's about maintaining control. She doesn't like the idea that she's losing the influence she once had. She doesn't like feeling like she's no longer the center of your attention, and that's when she starts testing you. She might send a random text, just to see if you'll reply. She might post something online, hoping you'll react. She might suddenly show interest, just to make sure she still has that effect on you. This is why emotional availability keeps so many men stuck in a cycle, because the more predictable you are, the more power she has over you. If she knows exactly how you'll react, if she knows she can always come back to you, then she never truly feels the need to choose you. She'll just keep you in the background, knowing that you'll always be an option. And the more she feels like she can control the situation, the less urgency she has to actually be with you. That's why women get jealous even when they're not committed. It's not about love, it's about losing their grip on you. The idea that another woman might be giving you attention, the idea that you're no longer orbiting around her, that's what gets to her. Because suddenly, she realizes that she might have overplayed her hand. She realizes that maybe you're not waiting around anymore. And that's when the chase begins. Not out of real desire, but out of fear of losing the power she once had. And here's where things get really interesting. When a woman feels like she's losing power over you, she'll do one of two things. Either she'll try to pull you back in, or she'll convince herself that she never really cared in the first place. And the way she reacts depends entirely on how you handle the situation. If she sees that you're still affected by her actions, she knows she still has control. If you react to her texts, if you respond to her breadcrumbs, if you show any signs that you're still emotionally invested, then she doesn't have to do much. She can string you along, keep you in limbo, and maintain her position of power without ever fully committing. But the second she senses that you're genuinely moving on, that's when she has to make a decision. And most women don't like being in that position. That's why some women, when they realize they're losing control, will start acting out. Maybe she suddenly starts showing you attention, acting interested when she wasn't before. Maybe she tries to make you jealous by bringing up other guys. Maybe she starts playing games, disappearing and reappearing just to see if you'll chase. These are all tactics to regain control, to put you back in the position where you're the one seeking her validation. Because as long as you're the one chasing, she's the one in control. And if she can't get that control back, if she realizes that you're no longer falling for the same patterns, that's when she starts telling herself a different story. She'll convince herself that you were never that important to her anyway, that she never really liked you that much, that she didn't lose anything. This is a defense mechanism. It's easier to act like she never cared than to admit that she lost control. But deep down, it still bothers her. This is why you'll see women act completely different when they realize they've lost you for good. Some will suddenly act like they hate you, talking about you negatively to their friends, convincing themselves that you were never a big deal. Others will go completely silent, hoping that you'll come back to check on them. And some will wait until way later, when they see you with someone else, when they see you thriving without them, to finally acknowledge what they lost. And the truth is, by that point, it won't even matter anymore. Because if you've truly moved on, then her reaction is irrelevant. That's the ultimate shift in power. When you stop caring about whether she notices your absence, when you stop worrying about what she's thinking, that's when you truly become free. And ironically, that's also when she'll start feeling your absence the most, because nothing is more unsettling than realizing that someone who once wanted you doesn't anymore. That's when she'll truly start to wonder if she made a mistake. But by then, it's too late. And this is where the psychological shift happens. See, women don't just miss a man because he was around. They miss him because of the space he leaves behind when he's gone. That space is what creates longing, what makes her reflect, what forces her to feel the absence of your presence. And this is where most men mess up. They assume that constantly reminding her of their presence will make her want them more, but in reality, it's the opposite. When you're always available, always chasing, always making it clear that you're still an option, there's no space for her to feel anything. She doesn't get to experience what life is like without you, and as a result, she never truly values you. But the moment you pull away completely, that's when she starts to feel it. At first, she might not react. She might act like she doesn't care, like it doesn't bother her, like your absence means nothing. But over time, that silence becomes louder. It forces her to start questioning things. Why haven't you reached out? Why aren't you chasing like other men would? Did she misjudge your interest? Did she actually lose you? And once those thoughts start creeping in, they begin to take root in her mind. Because here's the thing. When you stop chasing, she has to face her own emotions. When a woman is used to attention, used to validation, used to the comfort of knowing that she can have you whenever she wants, she doesn't really need to evaluate her feelings. She doesn't need to ask herself if she actually wants you, because she assumes you'll always be there. But once that certainty is gone, once you remove yourself as an option, she's left with a void that she has to make sense of. And that's when she starts realizing that maybe she took you for granted. Maybe she miscalculated. Maybe, just maybe, she made a mistake. This is why the most powerful thing you can do is walk away with confidence. Not out of bitterness, not as a manipulation tactic, but because you understand your own worth. Because you refuse to be an option to someone who doesn't recognize your value. And when you do this, something interesting happens. She starts looking for signs of your return. She starts checking your social media, asking mutual friends about you, or even reaching out with random, meaningless messages just to see if she can still get a reaction out of you. And this is where your real power lies, not in reacting, but in staying detached. Because the moment you engage, you give her back the control. But when you remain indifferent, when you continue focusing on yourself, on your growth, on your own life, she feels it. And that feeling of wanting someone who no longer wants you the same way is something she won't be able to shake. It lingers. It makes her think, and more often than not, it makes her come back. But by the time she does, you'll have already moved forward. And that's when you truly win. And here's where things get even more interesting. When a woman realizes she can't control your emotions, when she sees that you're not reacting the way most men would, she starts to wonder what makes you different. Because, let's be real, most guys crumble under the pressure of a woman pulling away. They panic, they chase, they try to fix the situation. But when you do the opposite, when you remain unbothered, when you continue living your life as if her presence or absence doesn't dictate your happiness, that's when she starts seeing you in a different light. At first, it might frustrate her. She might try subtle ways to get your attention, liking an old post, sending a random message, showing up in places she knows you'll be. And these aren't coincidences. These are calculated moves. She wants to see if she still has that pull over you, if she can still make you react. But the key is to not give her that satisfaction. The moment she realizes that you've mentally and emotionally moved on, she starts to question her own feelings. And that's when the real shift happens, when the power dynamic flips in your favor. You see, women are naturally drawn to men who have options, men who exude a sense of self-worth, men who don't rely on external validation to feel important. And when she sees that you've become that man, not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely elevated yourself, that's when she starts craving your attention. That's when the idea of losing you becomes real. And here's the truth. People always want what they can't have. The moment she feels like you're no longer an option, the moment she senses that you're not sitting around waiting for her to make up her mind, she starts feeling something she didn't expect. Regret. Regret for not appreciating you when she had the chance. Regret for assuming you'd always be there. And that regret creates an emotional response that she can't ignore. But the real question is, by the time she realizes all of this, will you even care? Because that's the ultimate position of power. Not waiting for her to come back, not hoping she sees your value, but becoming so focused on your own growth that whether she returns or not becomes irrelevant. That's when you truly win. When you no longer need her validation. When you've built a life so fulfilling that no single person, no matter how attractive, how interesting, or how much history you have, can shake your sense of self. And that's the irony of it all. The moment you no longer seek her attention, the moment you stop trying to be someone she wants, is the moment she starts wanting you the most, because nothing is more attractive than a man who knows his worth and refuses to settle for anything less. And at this point, something powerful happens. She starts to feel the absence of your energy. See, most men don't understand the true weight of their presence in a woman's life. When you're around, when you're giving her attention, when you're showing her you care, even if she's not fully invested, she still feels that energy. And as long as you're there, she has no reason to miss you. But the moment you pull away, The moment you stop feeding that cycle, she starts to feel the void. This isn't just about attraction, it's about psychology. Humans by nature don't appreciate things that seem easily available, but the second something is taken away, that's when we realize its true value. It's the same reason why people suddenly crave a food they never even thought about, just because they know they can't have it. And for a woman, the moment she realizes you're no longer an option, that's when her mind starts working overtime. She starts replaying old conversations, wondering why you haven't reached out, questioning whether she misjudged you. And the more time that passes, the more it starts to eat at her. Because now there's a mystery. There's a story left unfinished. And unfinished stories are what keep people hooked. This is why certain books, movies, or TV shows stick with us for years, because they left us with unanswered questions. And you, whether you realize it or not, have become that unfinished story in her mind. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. She might try to suppress these feelings. She might tell herself, "Oh, I don't care. He's just doing his own thing." But emotions don't work that way. The subconscious mind doesn't just let things go, and when she least expects it, maybe while she's scrolling through social media, maybe while she's out with friends, something will trigger a memory of you. And it won't be the big moments she remembers. It'll be the small things, the way you laughed at a joke, the way you said something in passing, the way you carried yourself with that quiet confidence. And once those thoughts start creeping in, they don't stop. They linger, they build. And the more she tries to push them away, the stronger they get. Because now, she's not just thinking about you, she's feeling the loss of you. And emotions always overpower logic. This is why silence is so powerful. It forces the other person to sit with their own thoughts. And when she realizes that you're not chasing, that you're not desperately trying to win her over, that you're simply living your life, she starts to feel something she never expected. Doubt. Doubt about her decision. Doubt about whether she should have let you go. Doubt about whether she actually ever wanted to let you go in the first place. And that's the moment the balance of power shifts. Because now, she's no longer in control of the narrative. Now, she's the one stuck wondering. And nothing haunts a person more than the thought of what could have been. Now, here's where things take an even deeper turn. At first, she might try to brush off these feelings. She might convince herself that she never really cared, that she was never truly interested in you to begin with. But emotions don't just disappear. They get buried, they get suppressed, but they always resurface when triggered. And what's the biggest trigger of all? The realization that someone who was once there is now completely gone. Women are emotional creatures. Even when they claim to be logical, their emotions will always dictate how they perceive a situation. And when you remove yourself from her life without begging, without chasing, without even giving an explanation, she feels that loss on a subconscious level. It's not just that you're gone, it's that you were supposed to be an option, and now you're not. That disruption creates an emotional imbalance that her mind will try to correct. And this is when she starts doing things she never expected. Maybe she casually checks your social media just to see what you're up to. Maybe she brings your name up in conversations, pretending like it's no big deal. Maybe she starts posting things that she knows might catch your attention, subtle hints, indirect messages, trying to spark a reaction from you. And if you don't take the bait, that's when she really starts feeling it. See, she expected you to be like every other guy, to notice her little hints, to take the opportunity to reconnect, to show that you still care. But when you don't, that's when she starts to panic internally. Because now, the control she once had over the situation is slipping away. She was supposed to be the one deciding whether or not to let you back in. But you're not playing the game. You're living your life as if she never mattered. And that's what drives her crazy. At this point, one of two things will happen. Either she'll reach out directly, maybe a random text, maybe a, "Hey, hope you're doing well," something that seems innocent on the surface, but is really her way of checking if she still has a hold on you. Or if her pride won't allow her to do that, she'll keep waiting, hoping you'll eventually break. But here's the key. You don't break. You don't fall into the trap of responding just because she finally reached out. You don't immediately jump back in just because she's showing interest now, because if you do, all the power you gained, it disappears instantly. She'll know she still has you. She'll know you were just waiting for her to acknowledge you. And once she knows that, the chase is over. Instead, you stay grounded. You remain unbothered. You acknowledge her presence if necessary, but you don't feed into her attempts to regain control. Because the moment she realizes that you're truly indifferent, that she no longer has the ability to manipulate your emotions, that's the moment she starts questioning everything. And that's the moment she realizes that maybe, just maybe, she made a mistake letting you go. And this is where the real shift happens. Up until this point, she's been operating under the assumption that she had you figured out, that if she ever wanted to, she could pull you back in with just a little effort. But now, she's confronted with a reality she wasn't prepared for. You're no longer reacting the way she expected. You're no longer waiting around for her validation. And the more she realizes this, the more her mind starts working against her. See, when a woman loses the power to affect you, she starts obsessing over why. She starts questioning her own attractiveness, her own influence, her own ability to command attention. And that's a hit to her ego that she can't easily ignore. Suddenly, you're not just a guy she once knew. You become the exception, the one who slipped away, the one who didn't fall in line like all the others. And this is where regret begins to creep in. At first, it's subtle. She might think, was he actually better than I gave him credit for? Then it turns into, did I underestimate him? And eventually, did I make a mistake letting him go? That last question is the most dangerous one for her, because once she starts considering the possibility that she made a mistake, she becomes emotionally invested again. This is where she might start reaching out more frequently, maybe liking your posts, maybe replying to your stories, maybe even bringing up old memories as if to test the waters. And if she feels bold enough, she'll drop a direct message, something like, "Hey, I was just thinking about you." But make no mistake, this isn't about genuine interest. This is about control. She wants to see if she can still affect you, if she can still get a reaction. But what happens when she doesn't get the response she was hoping for, when you remain cool, unbothered, and just a little bit out of reach? That's when her emotions spiral even further. Because at this point, it's not just about you anymore. It's about her own self-perception. Women pride themselves on being desirable, on being able to command attention. When they lose that ability with someone they once thought they had wrapped around their finger, it creates an internal conflict they can't easily resolve. And that conflict, that's what keeps them thinking about you, long after they've convinced themselves they've moved on. This is why women can't let go of a man who truly understands his value. It's not about looks. It's not about money. It's about the emotional imprint you leave behind when you show that you are completely self-sufficient. The moment she realizes that her presence, or absence, has no power over you, that's the moment she becomes trapped in her own mind, wondering if she let go of something she'll never find again. And that's the ultimate position of power. Not because you manipulated her, not because you played games, but because you simply refuse to be controlled. Because the truth is, when a woman can't let you go, it's not always because she loves you, it's because she never truly understood you. And now, it's too late. And here's where the cycle really takes hold. When a woman realizes she can't figure you out, that's when the emotional roller coaster begins. One moment, she's convincing herself she doesn't care, that she's over it, that you were never that special to begin with. But the next moment, she's replaying past interactions, analyzing every detail, wondering why she feels this nagging sense of unfinished business. This isn't just curiosity, it's a psychological trap. The mind hates loose ends. When something doesn't have a clear resolution, the brain keeps circling back to it, trying to make sense of it. And that's exactly what's happening here. She thought she had you figured out. She thought she could move on without a second thought. But your detachment, your ability to exist without her, disrupts that narrative. At first, she might suppress it. She'll go on dates with other guys. She'll immerse herself in distractions. She'll tell herself she's better off. But those distractions are temporary. Because no matter who she meets, no matter how much validation she gets elsewhere, there's still one thing she can't shake. You were different. You weren't like the guys who chased after her, who desperately tried to win her back, who made it too easy. You held your ground. You became an unsolved mystery. And nothing is more frustrating than an unsolved mystery. That's when the real obsession kicks in. Now, it's not just about missing you. It's about proving to herself that she can still have an effect on you. This is when she might test you, reaching out in subtle ways, just to see if you'll bite. Maybe she'll send a random message about an old memory, maybe she'll find an excuse to ask for your help, or maybe she'll just like a few of your posts to remind you she's still there. But make no mistake, this isn't about reconnecting, this is about control. She wants to see if she still has access to your emotions, if she can still make you react, if she can still pull you back in when it suits her. But here's where most men make a mistake. They take the bait. They see her reaching out, and they assume it means she's genuinely interested again. They respond too eagerly. They give away their position. And just like that, she regains her power. The moment she sees that she still affects you, the mystery is solved. The curiosity fades. The chase is over. That's why the key to maintaining this power dynamic is consistency. If you've built an identity that isn't reliant on her attention, you can't suddenly break that the moment she comes sniffing around. If you do, she'll instantly recognize that your strength was just an act, that deep down, you were still waiting for her all along. And that realization, that kills the intrigue faster than anything. But if you hold firm, if you maintain your position as the man who doesn't need her validation, that's when you become unforgettable. Because at that point, it's no longer about you, it's about her own mind working against her, keeping her trapped in a cycle of what-ifs and regrets. And the longer that cycle continues, the more she can't let you go. And this is where the real power shift happens. When a woman can't shake the thought of you, when she's caught in that endless loop of curiosity, doubt, and desire, she starts to see you differently. It's no longer about whether she was interested in you in the past. It's about the fact that now she needs to know why you don't seem to be affected like the other guys. At this point, something crucial changes in her mind. You go from being an option to being a challenge. And challenges, especially emotional ones, are irresistible. She might not even understand why she's thinking about you so much. She might not consciously acknowledge that she's trying to win you over, but subconsciously, that's exactly what's happening. The woman who once had little interest now finds herself in a mental tug-of-war. Does she reach out? Does she ignore it? And does she try to provoke a reaction? And here's the irony. If she knew that all of this started because you simply stopped chasing, she'd be furious. Women aren't used to men having that kind of self-control. They're used to being the ones in control, the ones who decide when something is over. But the moment you refuse to play that game, you flip the script. Now, let's break this down from a psychological standpoint. There's a principle in behavioral psychology called intermittent reinforcement. It's the same concept that keeps people addicted to gambling. When rewards are unpredictable, when they come at random times and in unexpected ways, people become more addicted, not less. That's exactly what's happening here. The fact that you're not constantly available, the fact that she can't predict your next move, makes her hyper-focused on you. And it's even deeper than that. Women are wired to seek validation, especially from men they see as high value. But when that validation isn't guaranteed, when she's not sure she still has an effect on you, it triggers a feeling of uncertainty. That uncertainty creates emotional tension, and emotional tension is the foundation of attraction. That's why women are drawn to men who don't make things easy. It's why they chase after men who seem slightly out of reach. It's why they can't stop thinking about the ones who got away. Because deep down, whether they admit it or not, they crave the challenge. They crave the feeling of earning a man's attention rather than having it handed to them. But here's where most men fail. They get impatient. They assume that just because a woman starts showing signs of interest again, it means she's fully invested. But that's not how this works. This process isn't about winning her over in a day. It's about slowly solidifying your position in her mind, letting the intrigue build until she's the one who has to resolve it. And that's the beauty of all of this. When you master the art of emotional detachment, when you stop seeking approval and start living on your own terms, women feel it. It's not about playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about genuinely embodying the mindset of a man who doesn't need anyone's validation to feel complete. Because the second you become that man, something incredible happens. You stop worrying about whether she's interested. And ironically, that's exactly when she won't be able to let you go.